In the beginning, the universe was a vast, empty expanse. Distant stars glimmering in the cold void, galaxies spinning their silent dances, and planets forming and unforming in the emptiness of space. But the quiet was shattered the moment the humans made their mark. It wasn't just that they had arrived, it was what they could do with what they had. When humanity first encountered the Xantari, an ancient race of insectoid beings who had evolved for eons without significant technological advancement, the Xantari were confounded. To them, war was a complex ritual, fought with honor and specific, calculated strategies. Their advanced biotech was engineered for defense. Their weapons evolved over generations to be fine-tuned for battle. A clash between their mighty warriors was an intricate dance of predatory tactics, precise movements, and calculated strikes. The Xantari had believed themselves to be the pinnacle of evolution, conquerors of the cosmos with their terrifyingly efficient weapons and biological adaptations. But they were not prepared for the humans. The first battle was fought on a desolate moon of a dying gas giant, a place where the Xantari had stationed their war fleet, waiting for the inevitable arrival of their next target, a small, insignificant planet known to them as Earth. The humans, however, were not the meek creatures the Xantari had anticipated. They were quick to learn, adaptable in ways that defied logic. They arrived aboard their ships, but it wasn't the ships that were their weapons. It wasn't the weapons they wielded that made them terrifying. It was the humans themselves. Sergeant Anna Winters stood on the edge of the Xantari's ruined fleet, her boots firmly planted on the cracked surface of the moon. The silence was deafening after the chaos. A few straggling Xantari warriors, those not killed by the human soldiers or their own crumbling technology, huddled in the shadows, their mandibles clattering in fear as they looked at the humans. Their black, chitinous bodies were covered in bio-armor that had once been impenetrable. Now, it was nothing more than debris, scattered across the lunar landscape. "Another one down," Anna muttered as she wiped the sweat from her brow. She wasn't sure if it was from the heat of the battle or the thrill of survival. But they keep coming. Her team was picking through the wreckage, collecting whatever intel or tech they could find. It wasn't just about victory. It was about understanding the Xantari's technology, turning their own weapons against them. Anna's voice crackled through the comms. "Find anything useful?" "Plenty," came the reply from Lieutenant Patel. "We've got their plasma generators. Those things are better than anything we've got. And a couple of their exosuits. We'll need to study them more, but there's potential." "Good," Anna said, scanning the horizon. "But we need to be careful. We're deep in enemy territory." A sudden rumble cut her off. Anna turned her head, eyes narrowing as a massive warship, half of it scorched and broken, but still functional, began to take off from the surface. The Xantari weren't done yet. "We've got company," Anna said flatly, reaching for her pulse rifle. She signaled to her team, "Time to put everything we've learned to good use." Meanwhile, aboard the command deck of the human flagship, Admiral Joseph Klein was staring out into space, contemplating the situation. The Xantari had underestimated humanity, and it had cost them dearly. But Klein knew the fight was far from over. It wasn't just the Xantari they were up against now. The moment the humans engaged in their first war with the insectoid species, they had inadvertently awoken something far more dangerous. The universe, it seemed, had its own rules. Those who were strongest, most capable, and most intelligent had their place. But the humans, they had no place in these rules. Klein's mind raced. His own fleet had adapted rapidly to the Xantari's biotech, learning to harness it. They had discovered new weapons, new tactics, ways to turn everything, no matter how small, into a weapon. It was their defining trait. Where the Xantari saw nature and technology as separate, the humans blurred the lines, making everything a tool of war. No longer just soldiers or starships, humans used everything from the simplest metals to strange, alien plants to create new weapons. The Admiral leaned forward in his chair, his fingers steepled beneath his chin. "We need to expand," he said, more to himself than anyone else. "If we continue at this pace, the Xantari won't stand a chance. But we must be careful. We've seen what happens when we become too reliant on alien technology. We need to ensure we're using it on our terms." The tactical officer spoke up. "Admiral, a message from Earth Command. They've completed the adaptation of the Xantari's bio-EPON systems. They're requesting authorization for testing." Klein's heart skipped a beat. They had discovered a way to weaponize the Xantari's biotech? He nodded slowly. authorize the test, but keep a close eye on it. If anything goes wrong, I want that facility wiped off the map." On the front lines, Anna and her team were preparing to board the remaining Xantari ship. The humans had learned quickly that the Xantari were a prideful race. They fought to the last, but that pride had a weakness: their belief in the invincibility of their technology. The moment the humans had figured out how to reverse engineer the alien systems, it was only a matter of time before the tide would turn. But as they prepared to infiltrate the ship, something strange happened. The air seemed to vibrate with a deep hum, the temperature dropped rapidly, and the lights flickered. Anna turned her head in confusion as the ship's systems began to reboot, and the Xantari's war machines powered up again. It was as if the ship had come alive. Her heart raced. "Is it?" Before she could finish her sentence, a voice echoed through the comms. It wasn't the familiar language of the Xantari, nor the English she had heard for years. This was something ancient, something darker. "Your evolution has only begun. Humans," the voice intoned, the words sending a chill down Anna's spine. "The universe belongs to those who wield everything as a weapon. And you have just begun to understand." Back on Earth, the engineers working on the bioweapon systems stared in shock as the final tests were conducted. The alien technologies had adapted seamlessly to their human counterparts, but as they activated the final phase, a strange phenomenon occurred. The bioweapons, which were supposed to be under their control, began to malfunction. More accurately, they seemed to be evolving on their own. "We've got a problem," one of the engineers muttered, tapping frantically on the console. "The systems aren't responding to our commands. It's like they've changed." The malfunctioning bioweapons on Earth weren't the only anomaly. On the Moon, Anna Winters and her team had just encountered a new, terrifying threat. The Xantari ship, now pulsing with an eerie, unfamiliar energy, seemed to defy all logic. It was as if the very essence of the ship, its metal, its biotech, its weapons, had merged into something greater. "Get back!" Anna barked to her team as the ship's inner lights flickered erratically, sending harsh shadows stretching across the barren landscape. The humming sound increased in frequency and pitch, vibrating through the ground, the air, and their bones. The structure itself seemed to pulse with life, a fusion of organic and mechanical parts. "Anna, what's happening?" Lieutenant Patel shouted, stepping backward from the advancing ship. "I don't know," Anna replied, her pulse quickening. Her eyes locked onto the strange pulsations radiating from the ship's core. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a living weapon. The ship's walls creaked and groaned. Then suddenly, the air was filled with a guttural roar. The Xantari warriors had started moving again, but these weren't ordinary soldiers. These creatures, now fused with the ship's technology, were no longer mere insectoids. They were something else entirely. Anna's heart raced. The Xantari had unleashed something that even they couldn't control. It was as though the weaponization of their technology had crossed a line, awakening something primal, a force beyond their comprehension. These new creatures, hybrids, she realized, were terrifying not only because of their size and strength, but because they were intelligent in a way that the Xantari had never been. And that intelligence was now focused on the humans. "Get to the transport, now," Anna shouted, reaching for her rifle. But as she turned to head toward the extraction point, the ground beneath them shifted. A massive, armored figure rose from the rubble of the ship's shattered hull. It was an abomination, a combination of Xantari biotech and ancient war machines, its body covered in a glistening exoskeleton that rippled with energy. It stood nearly 20 feet tall, with claws like serrated blades and eyes that burned with a malignant intelligence. "Fall back!" Anna yelled, but the creature was already upon them. With a roar, it swept its claws toward her team, forcing them to scatter. Back on Earth, Admiral Joseph Klein sat in his command center, the reality of their situation beginning to sink in. The sudden surge of energy from the Xantari ship, coupled with the rapid, uncontrollable evolution of their biotech, was not just a setback. It was a crisis. The human fleet had adapted quickly to Xantari technology, but they had underestimated the potential for disaster when that technology began evolving on its own. "Admiral, the bioweapons they're alive. They're adapting, growing beyond our control." An engineer's voice crackled through the comms, panic evident in every syllable. Klein's mind raced. He had seen the reports, the strange, unpredictable behavior of the Xantari's technology. but he hadn't expected it to escalate so quickly. If the bioweapons had indeed developed sentience, they could be more dangerous than any Xantari army. "We need to shut down the systems now," Klein ordered. His voice was calm, but the urgency was clear. He slammed his fist onto the table as the implications of this new threat sank in. If the bioweapons were beyond their control, it could mean the destruction of Earth itself. But as the engineers scrambled to pull the plug on the systems, a chilling message appeared on every screen in the facility. The words were simple, but the meaning was profound. "We are the evolution." On the moon, Anna and her team were struggling to keep ahead of the monstrous hybrid. Their weapons, everything they had learned to turn into a weapon, were ineffective against its seemingly invulnerable body. The creatures shrugged off their plasma shots, each strike from its claws sending shockwaves that knocked the humans off their feet. "Anna," Patel shouted, narrowly avoiding a swipe from the creature. "What the hell is that thing?" "I don't know, but we need to stop it before it reaches the transport." Anna's voice was strained as she fired again, but it was no use. The creature just kept coming. Suddenly, the air around them seemed to ripple, and with it came an overpowering sense of something shifting, something changing. The creature paused mid-attack, its claws hovering inches from Anna's face. Its head tilted slightly, as if listening to something beyond the immediate battle. Then, as quickly as it had stopped, the creature let out a loud, resonant screech. Anna felt the hair on the back of her neck stand up as the ground beneath her feet trembled. The creature turned away, its eyes locking onto something far off in the distance, back toward the heart of the Xantari ship. For a moment, it hesitated, and then it charged, not at Anna or her team, but at the ship. "What the hell is it doing?" Patel gasped. Anna's eyes narrowed. "It's not just a weapon. It's responding to something." Back on Earth, the situation had escalated to terrifying proportions. The bioweapons, once controllable, predictable, had become something entirely different. The engineers and military commanders were helpless. They had no way of understanding how to stop them now that the biotech had integrated into a complex, sentient system. Klein stood before the massive holographic display, watching as the battle raged on Earth's surface. The biotech was spreading, evolving into something alive. The creatures that were once used for targeted strikes now roamed free, acting with autonomy and terrifying intelligence. And then, as the hologram flickered, the system displayed something new. A message, a warning. The evolution has awakened. Klein felt the blood drain from his face. This was no longer about survival. This was a battle for the soul of humanity. They had used everything, to fight, and now, it seemed the universe was about to turn that very weapon back against them. The final battle was fast approaching. On the moon, Anna and her team had successfully boarded the transport, but the hybrids weren't far behind. Their ship, alive, was closing in on their position, and all of humanity was on the edge of extinction. But there was still one last chance, one final weapon, and Anna Winters knew it was a weapon that had always been within their reach. As the transport engines roared to life, a voice came over the comms. "Admiral Klein, the bioweapons, they're adapting faster than we can keep up." "They're coming for us." Klein gritted his teeth. "Then we adapt faster. Prepare the final countermeasure." And with that, the stage was set.